Whoa, that's very cool. Okay, good day everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name's Ollie, and I've decided today that I'm going to have a look at the sun safely through my telescope. So here in Australia at the moment, it is our winter. So the sun here in August is quite low, lower than it would normally be. But we still get a couple of hours where we can, I still get a couple of hours where I can have a bit of a look at it. It's not going to be premium conditions or anything, and I'm not bothered about imaging it. However, I thought, why not just get my little ED80 here and have a look at it just with, just with my the naked eye, so to speak, using the appropriate filters here. So look, I've got two ways. There's two ways here that we can go about looking at the sun. The cheapest way and the easiest way to get into it is using one of these white light type filters here. So I've got the Baader ATSF solar filter, and these here are designed to sit at the front of your telescope here. Often they just clamp onto the dew shield at the front here. Now you do have to be a little bit careful with these. One thing I would say is always go for, if you're going to get one of these type of filters, that you can actually make these yourself if you buy the correct film. But one thing I would say, especially when we're thinking about looking directly at the sun, is you don't want to be taking any risks. So for me, it was kind of a no-brainer when I was getting into this, and this was the first solar filter I purchased. And I got this Baader solar filter. So this filter here is the Baader ASTF 80. And you can see from the back of the box here, there's a whole range of filters they do. But you can see here it says high resolution, the ASTF series, high resolution observation and imaging. So suitable for observing or photography, if that's what you want to do as well. So, like I said, first things first is safety. Always make sure you get a filter from a reputable shop. And if you have any doubts at all, ask questions, whether it's at your local astronomy club or whether it's where you're purchasing the filter from, and just double check it's definitely suitable for visual. You don't want to be taking any risks with your eyesight, okay? Because even the briefest exposure to the sun through a telescope, if you were not using any filters, can cause irreparable damage to your eyesight. So I know that sounds a bit severe, but all I'm saying is just make sure you know what you're doing and that you've purchased a good quality filter. And if you've got any doubts, just get advice from either a club or a shop that you're purchasing it from. Okay, so the next thing I would say, this is still in the line of safety, is I know we often don't read manuals, but this has got some good tips here on how to go about things like making sure there's no leaks, there's no light leaks anywhere, making sure all your washers are in correctly, how to fit it correctly. So in this case, I would recommend read the manual. It's only, it's got a few pages here, I'll not lie, there's a few pages, but make sure you do read the manual with these, and just make sure that you've covered all the safety tips and all the sort of maintenance tips here with your filter. So, okay, like we've said, this is the ASTF 80. So it's kind of designed for 80mm telescopes. Now, the way that these install is basically, like I said, on the front here. So the way that we would install this one here, and I'm quite lucky because this really fits this telescope perfectly. So what you're looking to do here is I'm going to clamp these rubber pieces here, these little rubber sort of bungs, if you like, over the end of the telescope. Now there's a couple of settings, but you'll probably see that this one just fits really snug. And then basically you push that on. You make sure that's nice and secure, so you can see there, look how secure that is against, it's not going to fall off. So that's my Baader ASTF filter fitted there on the front of the telescope. Hopefully you can see that, and that's focusing for you guys okay. Now what I do as an extra measure, because we are looking at the sun and I don't want to be taking any chances, is I often also put a little Velcro strap here around the whole thing. So I'll often do this as well. So I'll find those rubber washers and I often just tighten this around as well. So now you can see on the back here, I've actually got that Velcro strap, and it just gives me that extra reassurance that that's nice and tight now, and I don't need to worry about that. I don't need to worry about that falling off. That's all really nice and secure. Make sure you give it a good finger test and see that that's not just gonna sort of fall out, because that's the last thing you're gonna want. Now, like I said, first off here, I'm gonna use this white light filter. I am then gonna move on to a more a complex, or yeah, it's a lot more expensive solution here. But obviously the difference is what you can see. This is literally, I'm just gonna be able to view, very similar to how we're showing here, I'm gonna be able to view these sunspots on the sun here. Also, you'd be able to view the transit of the International Space Station. So you can see here, there's pictures where people have taken the space station passing across the front of the sun. So you can use various websites that will actually tell you when things like the space station is going across the surface of the sun, or they're going to be in front of the moon. So you can get these really cool sort of photographs if that's what you're into. So next thing is, we've got that installed. Obviously we're going to be looking at the sun. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fit my eyepiece here to the back. There we go. All right, so that's that part done. And we are pretty much set to go and have a look now. We've got our filter on, eyepiece is sorted out. So I'm going to put this on my manual mount, just my AZ5 mount. And let's go and take a look and see what we can see. Whoa, that's very cool. Okay, this is looking really good, guys. So I'm gonna try, let's swap over my 25mm, because we've got no Barlow. We've got no Barlow lens obviously on this, so we're just at 600mm. So I'm gonna change my 25mm for my 13mm now. Let's see how we're looking. Yes, that's a really nice combo now. And you could even go higher, but that's quite nice. You can easily see those dark spots now. Just use my slow motion controls here. Wow. Yeah, that looks really nice. This is really cool. Wow. It's actually quite busy, so you can actually see a good bunch of there's a good bunch of dark spots going right, and one big one right in the middle, which looks massive. Probably many times the size of, many times the size of Earth there, that big dark spot. Sweet. That's epic. Really is well worth beginning with one of these filters, just to get a taste for it. Okay guys, so that was fantastic. I haven't viewed the sun just like this for quite a while, and I think when you get into viewing things like the sun or the planets, it's that same old thing. It's very different to imaging, and I think viewing the sun is very similar to me like viewing the planets. It never gets old and it never gets boring. So yeah, that was pretty fantastic to see that. Now, like I said, this is 600mm focal length, this scope. This is my Skywatcher ED80. And I first began with the 25mm eyepiece in it. I've then gone and put in the 13mm eyepiece. And that's actually quite nice. It's getting you quite a bit closer in. You could probably go even smaller with your eyepieces. You could probably go up a bit smaller again. But actually being able to view the whole disc like that and see those dark spots on the sun, and there's quite a bit of clarity there, so it was actually quite surprising considering how low the sun is. But yeah, so that was a lot of fun. And next, I'm going to go and try out the other option here. So this is a bit more complicated, this. Obviously, with this setup, I've just put in my regular diagonal and my eyepiece here. So this is going to have to change now in order to use the Quark a bit. So the first thing I'm going to do first here is I'm going to take out my, whoops, just taking out the wrong one there. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm basically going to need to locate my Quark now. So I think the way I'm going to do this is I may as well take out the whole, I'll take out the 2-inch barrel here. And that's going to go in there like that. Now, obviously at the moment, you can see I've got a camera in here and my tilt device. So I'm going to take this out because we're not going to be imaging this time. We're just going to be doing visual. You can check out my other videos if you want to see how this actually looks for imaging. You can certainly get some really crackingly good images using a Quark. Now the difference here obviously with the Quark is that I'm going to be in much, much closer. And also the band pass here means that I'm actually going to be able to see a lot more of the activity on the sun. So rather than it just being much more of a sort of, I guess you might say, a flat image, this is actually going to show me some of that detail, some of that hydrogen alpha on the sun. And you can almost see, it's almost like it's quite difficult to explain. You can see like a three-dimensional, the physical properties on the top of the sun. So you can actually see, it's almost like more of a grainy sort of a look, but feels much more sort of like you're able to see what's actually happening on the surface of the sun. It's quite difficult to explain, but it's a very different look, and you get to see a lot more, I guess. Both of these solutions, though, by the way, are excellent. I'm probably going to be in too close with this setup because I've got a 13mm eyepiece, and the Quark here has got a built-in Barlow. So this is actually, the Quarks are actually made for getting in close to the sun. So this has actually got a 4x2 Barlow in it. So if you think about it, I've got a 600mm focal length on this scope, multiplied by 4, so I'm going to be over 2,400 millimeters in, 612, yeah. So look, we've got this basically set up now. Like I said, this is going to be in very close at 4x2 Barlow on this setup. So it's going to be quite a different experience. There are other options out there on the market, various hydrogen alpha filters, like Lunt do a lot of little telescopes, like little 50mm telescopes, which have the whole hydrogen alpha filter built into them, which are specifically for solar observing. So there are options out there like that. But with my setup, I'm obviously going to be in a lot closer, so I'm probably going to need to change my eyepiece now back to the 25mm. And also, I think obviously at this stage we can take off this filter now, because basically now the filtration is happening. The filtration itself is happening now in this unit here. Now, one thing to remember as well with the Quark is it is going to need power. So you can see it's got a little USB. It's got a little USB power input here. So I will need to, what I normally do is just strap a battery, a little battery onto here. So we can do that now. Okay, so let's just fit our power source on here. So we've got a battery. So connect this end to my power pack here and secure. I'm just going to secure this on using a Velcro strap like this, so that's nice and tight. And then over here, let's just connect this end. Okay. Switch this on. Now you can probably see now, that this little orange light has come on. So I've just got this in the center at the moment, this setting. Now this is to do with This is to do with changing the settings a little bit on this chromosphere. So I'm not going to cover that in this video. I'm just going to leave this dead in the center. And basically when this light goes green, that means that the chromosphere is ready to look through and it's heated up. Okay, so we're just going to wait a little while for that, and then we're going to put it on the mount and we're going to see what we can see. Okay, so with the 25mm eyepiece, I can kind of get about half in of the sun. Obviously in much closer with the Barlow, but you can definitely see more detail now. And you can also see the small prominences around the sun now. It's pretty spectacular. Wow, those prominences look really good. Just see them shooting up. Well, this eyepiece needs a clean. It's really nice to get in tight though now on those black sunspots. Probably be nice to have a slightly beefier mount though at this magnification because of the wobble. Alright guys, so that session of visually looking at the sun is over now. I've spent like a couple of hours just having a go first with the Baader filter here, and then I've moved on to using the chromosphere a bit as well, the Daystar Quark chromosphere version. Look, I think if you've never done this before, if you've never actually looked at the sun with your own eyes, especially if you've got something like a little refractor like this, these are just such a great affordable way. And you know, it's obviously something like looking at the sun and seeing it just as a disc, how you will through this. It's just one of those experiences which is a little bit like looking at the planets. It's just phenomenal that you can even see those little prominences, those black spots on the sun, that you get those dark spots. And it also gives you an idea of the scale of just how big the sun is when you consider the distance from the Earth, and that you can still view it as a relatively big disk just through something like a 600mm refractor here. So I think this is a great way, especially if you were introducing people to viewing the sun for the first time. You could imagine getting a few people around a telescope like this, and it would just be, I think it's one of those things which would just be so amazing for people seeing it for the first time. So I think these are, you can also do some imaging as well with this. You could, nothing to stop you just sticking a camera in the eyepiece and doing that as well. Obviously, you know, moving on to the Quark is probably more of a choice if you're finding in astronomy that you really do enjoy looking at the sun, and you're also probably thinking a bit of solar photography, if that's something that interests you as well, because you do get so much more detail. You know, visually you also see more, so you can see those prominences around the disk of the sun as well, and obviously you do see more detail on the surface. You see, it's just a more full rewarding image to look at. But the real strength of these are when you want to do things like put a camera on and you want to say take those images of the surface of the sun, or those prominences around the edges of the sun, and you also maybe want to even do time lapses. You can get some phenomenal time lapses of those prominences actually moving over like the period of like an hour. So this really comes into its own for me when you're doing imaging as well, but it's also brilliant for visuals. So, and it also means that you can just, whilst this is very expensive, these are not cheap, you can obviously put this into various different telescopes as well. Now this is an 80mm refractor. You could put this, you know, in a 60mm, 80, 100, 120. The only thing to bear in mind with these is once you get above that 120 mark is you will need some sort of energy reduction filter on the front of your telescope. This is often recommended as soon as you get to that 120 mark, so you then mount that at the front. And some people, especially if you're into imaging, they like to have one on all the time, irrespective of what sort of focal length you're at. So look, a couple of options there. I just wanted to say in this video, look, this is another way that you can use your telescope. Solar imaging might not be something you've done before, or solar visual, just looking at the sun might not be something you've done before, and it's a great way to spend a couple of hours and also maybe even introduce people to looking at the sun for the first time. So without any further ado, thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of that. And yeah, thanks as always to everybody who watches my channel, and I always appreciate it, and I will see you soon, hopefully. So I'll catch you next time.